The host city for this year's C40 Cities Mayor Summit is the city of Johannesburg, a city which itself is doing a lot in terms of fighting climate change issues. And to tell us a little bit about some of the strategies in place is the MMC for Planning, Roslynn Greef. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Peter.
So a big summit is on the go at the moment and lots of discussions taking place, cities from all around the world, but Johannesburg itself, climate change is something that's very much on the agenda. Tell me about what's on your agenda in terms of your planning department.
Certainly. Peter, we really had to look at various issues as the city and look at a long-term plan for the city. Of course, we've had to take into account the fact that we're still a very disjointed city, which is not efficient. We have people living on the outskirts of the city, poor people, who need to travel extensively to get to work opportunities. We had to deal with that and sustainability. We have to look at climate change in the context of the fact that private motor vehicle use is one of the biggest contributing factors to climate change. So what we've done is we've come up with a really fantastic plan as a city, which we've called the Corridors of Freedom Plan. And it looks at linking the entire city together. So all the outlying areas, we're trying to move them in to the center of the city through using the BRT, bus rapid transport system, as a backbone, knitting the city together, developing high-density residential corridors along those BRT routes. And we hope that this is going to really help us in terms of climate change because people will be able to use public transport and not be so reliant on private motor vehicle use, taxis, etc. In addition to that, in terms of this new development, we're prescribing that we want people to use the latest green technologies in terms of developing the new buildings, new building standards, building regulations. The Mayor says this is going to be an incubation hub of technologies that assist us towards achieving what we want to do in terms of climate change.
How do you change the mindset of your citizens? Because they've got to be part of this story. I mean, I'm just thinking things like recycling and just being green intellectually.
It's very difficult. I think we've achieved it in small parts of the city. We have one area in the northern suburbs who are recycling already, but you have to really convince people of the benefits of recycling. There's effort involved, and people are lazy. They don't like to make that effort. We also don't really have the proper systems in place, which we're introducing now, because if people are to recycle, they want those recyclables collected in an efficient way from their households. Currently, we have a 240-litre bin system, very easy. Plonk all your waste in that, and we collect it once a month. So we're introducing the systems to support that, and we are trying to educate people about the impact waste, for instance, has on climate. We can't continue taking waste to landfills. We know that we've introduced some wonderful projects in the city where we're extracting methane gas from the landfills and turning that into electricity. But that's a mitigating action. We need people to recycle, and we need other people to make money out of those recyclables, which is also an opportunity.
I guess it must be a unique challenge for a city like Johannesburg that's both very developed and at the same time, many parts of it still very developing, and some would even say underdeveloped. How, when we look at C40s, some of these cities are very developed, so some of the issues that you have to deal with are quite unique. How do you manage this diversity of needs and still come up with an idea that we should all go green, because people have got different needs?
Of course they do, and of course we have to understand that we live in a city where there's still a huge disparity between rich and poor. So what we have tried to do and what we're trying to do is convince everyone of the benefits of going green. So for those who have, there is a benefit because we have to protect the city and the country and the world for future generations. So that's one of the things we're trying to educate people about. But also, even on an economic level, if you move towards using solar panels, for instance, there's an economic benefit to you as an individual. Now, when it comes to the poorer communities, we really think that going green is of great benefit to people that have affordability problems. We've installed low-cost geysers and also solar panels in houses across the city, in RDP houses, in underdeveloped communities. And people are finding that to be very beneficial because people are obviously on a social grant package, but there are affordability issues. So they find they have better access to hot water, etc. So we're trying to convince people of the benefits in some instances. And then when you come to recycling, there's a lot of money to be made from recycling, which we really are convincing people of that and rolling those programs out. We also have a big food security project, which is also very good for the environment, which we're rolling out in poorer areas in the city. So it's a combination of things. There are benefits for everyone. And of course, we just also have to appeal to people's consciences.
Mayor Parkstow talked a little bit about funding and getting the private sector to join the party. What can they do, and how important is their contribution to your plans?
They can do a lot, and I must say that in many instances, a lot of the major banks, a lot of the big cell phone companies are really coming into the party on these issues. We have a lot of really beautiful green buildings, for instance, in the city now. The new MTN building, there's a new Standard Bank building in Rosebank, where those buildings have achieved 5-star green ratings. Now, they've really made sure those buildings are sustainable, and I feel there's a big interest from the private sector in contributing to that. In all aspects, they've put in solar panels, they have different kind of ways of managing their air conditionings, their recycling, and the buildings are really beautiful, and they really are nice environments for people to work in. So we're trying to encourage that. And in fact, as the city, in terms of new development applications, we're making sure that all developments have to abide by certain standards in terms of green buildings.
Planning means looking to the future, and how do you determine what the city is going to look like and what the needs are going to be at a future date? Because the world is changing. Johannesburg has been changing, migration, movement within the country, from outside the country, and being part of this global community. How do you plan, especially when we're talking green issues?
We had to do a lot of research and development. Basically, we actually had under-anticipated the growth of the population in Johannesburg before the last census. So we had to adjust our plans when we looked at the reality of how many people are actually moving to Johannesburg, how we're urbanizing, and at the rate of which urbanization is taking place. And we haven't been conservative in our estimates looking forward for the next 20 years. We know this rate of urbanization is just going to continue increasing. That's the reality, and that's exactly what all big cities in the world are facing. So we've taken those statistics into consideration, and really the Corridor of Freedom plan is meant to accommodate that. We know there's going to be a continuing big demand for rental stock, for people moving into the country from, different places in the country, but also from the rest of Africa and the rest of the world. So in this new development, this high density, inclusive, beautiful, mixed-use development, we've made sure that we've accommodated the amount of people we anticipate coming in. So we'll be developing affordable rental stock, proper facilities for people to use. And I think our plans we hope they'll be accurate. You can never know in entirety. But we've certainly tried to do as much research as we could possibly do and look at what's happened in other countries around the world in terms of developing those 20-year plans.
I suppose urban renewal is also another important issue.
Yes. I think because we'd underestimated the amount of people that would be flocking into Johannesburg, urban renewal has become a big issue. We're working really hard on renewing the CBD currently, investing a lot, working with the private sector. But you will know that because of the rapid rate of urbanization, a lot of decay has taken place. A lot of buildings have been taken over by building hijackers. People are living in terrible conditions. So that is a big challenge. So we're kind of fighting two battles simultaneously. We are making some headway, and there's certain parts of the inner city of Johannesburg that are looking really beautiful now. The Maboneng precinct, for instance, Braamfontein. So we're taking it chunk by chunk. And it's really a big challenge for the city. It's something that we have to keep on doing on an ongoing basis. But what we hope is with the new corridor development, people will move out of those sort of conditions. Urban regeneration will become easier for us, and they'll move into these corridors.
All right. And what would you say is your biggest green issue that you need to get right quite quickly?
For me, personally, I think there are far too many emissions from private motor vehicles, trucks, buses. I don't think at this stage our public transport system has evolved enough to really move people towards private transport. It's very difficult for me as an individual, for you, to really, if you have a busy day and you live on one side of the city to really move into using public transport, because our systems at this stage really aren't very well integrated. I'd have to take about 3 different types of transport to get around to all my meetings every day. So I think that's our challenge. We've worked on an integrated transport plan. We're in the process of implementing it. But it's also convincing people that our public transport systems are reliable, which is a challenge for us as local government, and I think we're trying to address it.
Well, we certainly wish you the best of luck, and you have a huge portfolio to deal with, but I think we wish you the best of luck with that, because green is the way to go. And thank you so much for your time and sharing your thoughts with us. MMC for Planning, Roslynn Greef.